The mountains were not kind, nor forgiving. Their ridges rose like the teeth of some ancient beast, shadows crawling across stone and pine as the sun inched its way across the sky. For most men, this land was punishment. For Malachi Brooks, it was sanctuary. 3 years had passed since he'd spoken more than a handful of words to another soul. His life had been reduced to ritual. Rise with dawn, swing the axe until his muscles screamed, and let exhaustion silence memories that refused to die. Out here, there was no law, no judgment, no reminders of the man he once was. Until the morning when his axe stopped mid-swing. At the edge of his clearing, two figures stood where no one should have been. Children, twins, native, no older than 8, silent and still, their gazes locked on him. Their clothes hung in tatters, their faces streaked with grime and tears long dried. But their eyes, those eyes were not the eyes of children. They were watchful, burdened, almost accusing. Between them swung a leather pouch, clasped tightly by both hands as if letting go meant death itself. Steam curled from its seams in the icy air. Malachi's breath hitched. In all his years of isolation, nothing had unnerved him. Not storms that tore through the timber. Not the wolves whose howls split the night. Not the occasional lost traveler who stumbled into his territory. But this, 2 children standing at his clearing's edge, bearing a pouch that looked out of place in this wilderness. This was different. The girl stepped forward. Her voice carried with the clarity of someone speaking not to a stranger, but to a man she had known all her life. We know what you did to our father. The axe fell from Malachi's hand. His scar burned. His past stirred. The mountains, for the first time in 3 years, held their breath. The boy's voice joined his sister's, thin yet steady, slicing through the morning air like steel. The man with the scar on his neck? The one who screamed when you held him underwater? Malachi's hand flew instinctively to his throat. The scar was real, white and raised, a reminder he had spent years explaining away. A falling branch, he'd told himself. A hunting accident. A mark with no memory attached. But the boy's words ripped that lie open like a rotten log. Fragments came back in violent flashes. A moonlit creek, a pistol half drawn, water surging around thrashing limbs, a voice choking out words Malachi couldn't quite grasp. A man's weight going limp beneath his hands. His breath turned ragged. He wanted to shout that it wasn't true, that they were mistaken. But before he could speak, the forest whispered with a new sound. Hoofbeats. From the trees emerged a rider whose presence made Malachi's stomach knot. Sterling Maddox, merchant, schemer, and predator dressed in polished boots and silver trim. A man who never climbed mountains unless gold waited at the summit. Brooks, Sterling called, voice friendly but hollow. Didn't expect to find you up here, but I suppose a man can chop wood anywhere. The twins stiffened, their grip on the pouch tightening. Malachi felt the noose draw taut around the clearing. Sterling dismounted, his boots crunching on frosted earth. He brushed his coat with unnecessary care, his smile never touching his eyes. I'm searching for lost property, he said casually. 2 native children, twins. Wouldn't have happened to see them, would you? Malachi's reply came quick and flat. Haven't seen a soul. A lie, and both men knew it. Sterling's grin widened like a trap springing shut. They're holding something that belongs to me. Something their father stole before his unfortunate accident. That word, accident, hit Malachi like a hammer. The memory of the creek surged stronger. The gasping plea, the glint of a weapon, the desperate words lost to water. The girl whispered, almost too soft to hear. He's here. Sterling's eyes swept the clearing with predator patience. His voice hardened. They're carrying more than a keepsake. Inside that pouch is the location of a silver mine hidden by their tribe for generations. A fortune. Brooks. Riches beyond imagining. Riches worth killing for. The children clutched the pouch like it was their heartbeat. Malachi felt the ground tilt beneath him. He had sworn never to kill again. Yet here stood temptation, greed, and memory, circling like wolves. Sterling's hand hovered over his pistol. "Give it to me." The girl's small hands moved instead. She loosened the pouch's strings. The boy's knuckles whitened, but he didn't stop her. Slowly, deliberately, she opened it. Ash. Fine, gray ash drifted into the wind, caught in the cold air and scattered like the remnants of a funeral fire. The forest seemed to inhale. "The mine's secrets burned 3 nights ago," she said calmly. "The night our father died." Sterling's face twisted with rage. His pistol cleared its holster, but Malachi's hand, calloused and iron-strong from years of chopping wood, clamped down on his wrist. For a frozen moment, their eyes locked. And Sterling smiled, not with fear, but with recognition. "That's how you killed him," he hissed. "Close enough he couldn't draw. That's how you drowned Jacob Running Bear." Malachi's chest constricted. The truth bled through memory. He had drowned Jacob. But why? Hadn't the man begged him? Hadn't there been words about protecting the children? Before he could think, the forest exploded with new sounds. Hoofbeats, war cries, the thunder of painted horses breaking through the trees. Warriors. At their head rode a woman whose hair was streaked with silver, her eyes burning with fury. "I am Ayanna Running Bear," she declared. "Jacob was my brother. These children are mine to protect. And you," her gaze cut into Malachi, "are the man he trusted." Sterling sneered even with Malachi's grip on his arm. "You fools think you can stop me? That mine is worth 10 lifetimes of wealth." Ayanna dismounted, her movements sharp as a blade. In an instant, her knife was at Sterling's throat. A bead of blood welled against his pale skin. "Jacob died to keep that secret," she hissed. "And you will die if you try to take it." Nairi. The children moved closer to her, their eyes locked on Malachi. Not with hate, not with fear, but with a terrible, heavy recognition. They knew what he had done, and yet they hadn't condemned him. "You promised him," the girl whispered. Before the creek swallowed his voice, "You promised to protect us." The words crushed him. His chest ached with the weight of memory. And for the first time, Malachi spoke truthfully. "I did. I promise still." But the mountains had one more secret to reveal. The thunder of more hooves split the silence. Through the trees rode men in blue uniforms, federal cavalry, their sabers gleaming, their faces grim. At least 20, surrounding the clearing like a tightening noose. Sterling laughed, a manic, victorious sound. "Did you think I came alone? Captain Morrison is here under orders. The mine will be federal property before the sun sets. And all of you will hang." The captain dismounted, calm and deliberate. His eyes scanned the scene, the knife at Sterling's throat, Malachi's bleeding shoulder, the children pressed close to their aunt. He removed a folded paper from his jacket. "This is a warrant for your arrest, Sterling Maddox," Morrison said coldly. "For murder, fraud, and unauthorized mining on protected tribal land." Sterling's face drained of color. "What?" Morrison's gaze shifted to Malachi. "And you, Mr. Brooks. We know about Jacob Running Bear. We know what you did, and we know why. Malachi tensed, ready for shackles. But instead, Morrison saluted. Jacob was a federal informant. His final report confirmed his choice. You carried out his last request. The weight of 3 years shattered like glass. Sterling screamed as soldiers dragged him away in chains. His threats echoed through the clearing. Promises of allies in Washington, men of power who would not let this end. But his voice grew smaller, swallowed by the mountains. For the first time in years, Malachi breathed without guilt crushing his lungs. The children stood before him, no longer accusing, no longer burdened by secrecy. Their eyes, still old, now carried something else. Trust. 3 weeks later, the clearing was no longer a prison. Federal surveyors had come and gone, marking boundaries that secured the land for the tribe. The mine, once the obsession of greedy men, was sealed, its secrets guarded by law and tradition. Malachi remained, but not as a hermit. Jacob's children visited often, bringing food, questions, and laughter. One morning, Ayanna handed him a worn letter. Jacob's handwriting spilled across the page, steady and deliberate. Or, if you are reading this, then my children are safe. You gave me the death I needed and the guardian they deserved. Do not hide any longer. Teach them. Guide them. If you will, they will be honored to call you family. Or Malachi folded the letter carefully, pressing it to his chest. He looked at the children, waiting, hopeful, and at the woman beside them, offering him a place among them. For the first time, he smiled. When do I start? The mountains held their silence. But in that silence was not exile. It was welcome. And so the tale of Malachi Brooks ends, not with exile, not with shame, but with redemption. A man who carried guilt like an axe found purpose in the promise of a dying father. If you've journeyed with us through this story of betrayal, courage, and family reborn, we thank you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us again for another Western tale where destiny strikes in the most unexpected of places.